Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavad Gita Ashtottara to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavad Gita Ashtottara to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, give me 1 second here. On this 11th day of July 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. And we are beginning a new chapter today, Karma Yoga, Action of Krishna Consciousness, Chapter 5, page 229 in most of your books. Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Arjuna Vacha
Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna
Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Go ahead. Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Chashangsasi Yakshaya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishtitam. Anyone online?
Arjuna
Vacha
Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna
Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna
Punaryogam Chashangsasi
Punaryogam Chashangsasi
Yakshaya etayor ekam
Yakshaya etayorekam
tanme bruhi sunishchitam.
Tanme bruhi sunishtitam. Word by words. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna said, sannyasam, renunciation, karmanam, of all activities, Krishna, O Krishna, punaha, again, yogam, devotional service, cha, also, shangsasi, you are praising. Yat, which, shreyaha, is more beneficial, eteyo, of these two, ekam, one, tat, that, may, unto me, bruhi, please tell, sunishtitam, definitely. Translation. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? Purport. In its 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that work in devotional service is better than dry mental speculation. Devotional service is easier than the latter because, being transcendental in nature, it frees one from reaction. In the 2nd chapter, preliminary knowledge of the soul and its entanglement in the material body were explained. How to get out of this material encagement by buddhi yoga or devotional service was also explained therein. In the 3rd chapter, it was explained that a person who is situated on the platform of knowledge no longer has any duties to perform. And in the 4th chapter, the Lord told Arjuna that all kinds of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. However, at the end of the 4th chapter, the Lord advised Arjuna to wake up and fight, being situated in perfect knowledge. Therefore, by simultaneously stressing the importance of both work in devotion and inaction in knowledge, Krishna has perplexed Arjuna and confused his determination. Arjuna understands that renunciation in knowledge involves cessation of all kinds of work performed as sense activities. But if one performs work in devotional service, then how is work stopped? In other words, he thinks that sannyas, or renunciation in knowledge, should be altogether free from all kinds of activity, because work and renunciation appear to him to be incompatible. He appears not to have understood that work in full knowledge is non-reactive and is therefore the same as inaction. He inquires, therefore, whether he should cease work altogether or work with full knowledge. Om Jnana Timarandrasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master awakened me with the torchlight of knowledge, and I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So, this is similar to Arjuna's complaint at the beginning of the 3rd chapter, where he said that O Janardhan, O Kesava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruit of work? My intelligence is bewildered by your apparently equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. So this idea of being able to be active and at the same time in yoga, and doing all kinds of things, but not getting any entanglement in the material world. As Krishna says in the 2nd chapter, I think, this is the art of all work. How you can work, but not be entangled by the results. And the reason is because you're not working fruitively. Everything is in the motive, is in why are you doing what you're doing? Now, without any understanding of the soul in relation to God and simply on the bodily concept, it's impossible to work without some personal or extended selfish desire. And therefore, everything we do is fruitive, is karma. If you recall, in the 4th chapter, Krishna said that one has to understand the distinction between action and inaction and forbidden action. There's karma, akarma, and vikarma. So karma in this context means anything where there's some reaction, either good or bad. You may do some very pious work, you may do some charity, or something, some sacrifice according to the Vedas. And so you're not incurring sin there, but your motive is to get a better birth in this lifetime, or even go to the heavenly planets, or something like that. It's a desire more than the mode of goodness, although it's certainly tinged with passion, rather than just some gross activity that is aimed at immediate sense gratification. So the karma vikarma and akarma. And he has this statement that sometimes is puzzling when you first read it. One has to see action in inaction and inaction in action. You remember that? What does that mean? So the way I understand it is that action and inaction means that someone may think, okay, I'm gonna go off to the Himalayas or some secluded place and meditate. I'm not going to do anything because otherwise I'll be entangled. In this way, I'm going to control my mind and senses in this way. But that's impossible, especially in this age. So you may not be physically doing anything. You're sitting there under a tree somewhere in a secluded place. But inside, your mind is doing all kinds of things. You're battling with the mind, the urges of the senses, and memories are coming. So that's also action. It's an action on the subtle plane. But it's just as binding as action on the gross plane, if there's no connection with Krishna and it's not part of devotional service. So that's action and inaction. But then on the other side, devotees do all kinds of things. You come to this temple, you see everyone's engaged, Saul is doing so many things, cooking in the kitchen, cleaning, doing it, going on Sankirtan. I'm at home, I have my little abode nearby here where I do BBT work. I'm doing all kinds of things on the computer. I'm working on this manuscript, that Vyasa Puja book, and all kinds of things. And everyone is active. But it's inaction in action, because there's no fruit of desire. We're doing it, we're connecting to Krishna through that activity. Or what could be more active than a big fired up kirtan? People jumping up and down, playing the drums. There's action going on there. But there's no karma. It's akarma, you see. Now, vikarma is fruit of action that's against the rules of its sinful activity, based on sense gratification. And that's the most dangerous, because by that activity you can even lose the human form of life. If you're following karma kanda and you're performing pious activity and going to the heavenly planet, then you'll go up, if you do it right, and then come back down, you'll be a human being again and get another chance. But the risk is that when you come back down to earth, it's the Kali Yuga. And you may not be able to, you get sucked into vikarma. Vikarma is the most dangerous. This is the teachings of Lord Rishabhdev. He has this wonderful three-verse lesson that is worth knowing. He starts out with this, Nunam pamatta kurute vikarma yadindriya pritaya apranoti nasaudamanye yata atmanoyam asanna pi kleshada asadeha. So what he's saying there is that nuna means certainly. Pamatak means mad, not just mad, very mad. Pra is an intensifier. Kurute vikarma, if people simply act on the basis of vikarma, means sinful fruit of activity. On the basis of what? Indriya priti, which is exactly sense gratification. Nunam pamakta kurute vikarma yadindriya prita apranoti, striving simply for sense gratification. He says, nasadamanye, my opinion is this is not a very good idea. And he should know. He's expansion of Krishna. Yata atmano yamasanapi kleshanasadeh, because by that activity you're sure to get another material body, which will simply produce more suffering. And the more vikarma it is, more sinful it is, the more suffering it'll be. So then he gives a very interesting verse describing the principle of entanglement and how to get out of it. He says, how does it start? Padabhavas tavat aboda jato yavan jigyatsa atma tattvam yavat kriyas tavadidam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. So Prabhupada would often quote this verse, and all three of them, in fact, they appear in a purport in the Bhagavad Gita together. So padabhavas means defeat. Now the human life is thought to be, you kind of lost a round, assuming you get another human life soon. If you don't escape from the bonds of birth and death and get liberation. That's parabhavas. Now we know, going back home, back to Godhead, which is our aim, includes liberation. Prema, which is the ticket back to Godhead, that includes liberation. But this is a basic principle in the Vedic culture. We don't want to keep going around and around, suffering birth, old age, disease, and death. Everyone understands that we're eternal. We're never born, we never die, and we go one body after another according to our activities in this life. So he said, Parabhavastava bodha jato. He say, as long as one, this defeat, this defeat meaning again taking a birth, is caused by ignorance, abodha. We know the word buddha, right? Buddhi means intelligence. So abodha means ignorance. It's born of the abodha jato. And therefore, yavana jigyasa atma, as long as you don't inquire into the atma tattva, the truth of the soul and the super soul and relationship between, as long as your inquiry doesn't include that, then you'll remain in ignorance and you remain defeated life after life. Yavana jigyasa yavat kriyas tavadidam manovai. As long as one is performing this kriya, in this case this kriya means fruit of activity, the mind will be infected. It's called karmatmakam, with all kinds of fruit of desires and latent things you're not even aware of that may come up at a certain point, because we have a big subconscious that we store all these things. And that's the vehicle of our transmigration of the soul. Krishna explains very distinctly in the beginning of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The subtle body, the mind, the intelligence and ego, which is really where we live, that doesn't die when the gross body dies. The soul never dies. But as long as we're in the material world, that subtle body also doesn't die, and that is the vehicle for our next body. It's the template upon which the gross body, we get a gross body. So if that's just full with all kinds of unfulfilled desires, then we're sure to get another body, maybe subhuman actually. So yavat kriyas karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. By that karmatmakam mind infested with these material desires, that's the vehicle, yena sharira bandha, by which you stay bound up to a sharira, a body, a physical body. So then the third verse, he gives a solution. He begins, evam mana karma vasham bhayungte avidyatmanjubadiyamane. Avidya means by ignorance, the mind is covered. So then he says, this is a key line here. Priti niyavan mai vasudeve namuchate dehi yogena tavan. So now he reveals, and he's an incarnation of Krishna, Vasudeva. As long as one doesn't have love for me, Vasudeva, says Rishabdev, one will stay bound to a physical body, birth after birth. In other words, there's no real mukti or liberation without bhakti or prema for Krishna. That includes liberation. So, this action, karma yoga action of Krishna consciousness, that is the title of that's the title of this chapter. So it meaning that action of Krishna consciousness is really liberating us from this karmatmaka situation of our mind. The mind is not fruitive. You're actually acting not on your own behalf, but on Krishna's behalf. That's the whole context here. Arjuna refused to act on Krishna's behalf. He said, Nayotsya, in the second chapter, in the beginning of I'm not going to fight, Govinda. Govinda, I shall not fight, Prabhupada has it. So that's the whole context of the Gita. And Krishna wants to convince him to fight. So he explains all this yoga. And at the end, what does Arjuna say? Karishe vachanang tava. I will do as you say. By your mercy, my ignorance has been dissipated, and I will act as you say. So that means Arjuna is not acting on his own behalf. Whatever he's doing in this fight is because Krishna wants him to fight. As far as he's concerned, he doesn't want to fight. He wants to leave the battlefield. He expresses horror at the idea of winning the kingdom at the expense of his beloved teacher and grandfather Bhishma and friends and relatives. And whatever I win, the spoils will be tainted with their blood. How am I going to enjoy that? So his own motive was to leave the battlefield, give up the fight. So he was thinking of his own interest. But then at the end he said, no, my real self-interest is serving the interest of Krishna, even though it may be separately against what I want. So this is the transformation of the soul in Maya to the soul in realization, in truth. So this, to explain this apparent paradox of being very active but also being a sannyasi. Sannyas doesn't mean giving up activities. Prabhupada showed it. He was a sannyasi. He was active like nobody else, you know. But all of it was transcendental activity, liberating. It wasn't binding him to this world, but he stayed liberated. So that's the context we're talking here. If there's any discussion, we can entertain that now. Go ahead. Something?
I heard, I was reading today in the Nectar of Devotion that there's two types of sinful activities of karma. One that's matured and that's one that's immature.
Yeah, those are sinful reactions.
Yeah, there you go. There.
Yeah.
And I was
the
wondering
prarabdha and the prarabdha.
Yeah.
So we have all of these stored. It's like you know, a disease. You contract a disease, but there's nothing happens right away. You don't know, right? And then after a while it manifests. Similarly, doing a sin is like getting contaminated with a disease. There's a sinful desire seed. There's a sinful reaction seed. But it doesn't fructify right away. It may not even fructify this lifetime. But the sufferings we experience in this lifetime are coming maybe from a previous life or earlier in this life. And then suddenly it happens. It's prarabdha. Our prarabdha is waiting in seed. These are sinful reactions that are. But bhakti, Krishna consciousness, is so powerful that it not only burns the seeds of our prarabdha that are going to fructify, but even those that are happening right now. You can feel yourself being taken away. You know that the sufferings, the distress, can be relieved. Or if it's something that you're born with, something you're able to tolerate it better. You're able to transcend, the limitations. He says, okay, this is what I did from previous lifetime, but now I'm chanting Hare Krishna, and I'm going to tolerate that. And it's not such a burden. This is explained by Kapila Dev. He says, how does it go? Mashaga, the sadhus, the devotees. Marashya kata mrishta shunbanti katayanti cha tapanti mibadastapa naitanman gata chetasa. So he's saying there that one of the qualities of the devotees, pure devotees especially, is that they're always chanting and hearing my glories. Marashya kata mrishta. They've taken shelter of me. And the kata, the sound vibration, which is very sweet and very attractive. Shrinbanti katayanti. They're all hearing and chanting. And therefore, tapandi vivadastapan, they don't suffer from the tapa as much. Naitan, because their minds are gone to me. They're absorbed in me. And we saw this with Srila Prabhupada. It was amazing. His tolerance for pain. I'm just reading this, physical pain. We have in the biography of Yamuna Devi, which I highly recommend. It's a 2-volume biography, wonderful book, written by her mostly, but it wasn't an autobiography, also Dina Tarani, her lifelong companion. And describing how Prabhupada once had an infection in his foot, and there was all this swelling, and he just went on with his program. He wasn't even limping, but you could see that, that would normally cause so much stress. But he didn't stop his program, and it especially showed that when he was about to leave his body, and the doctor came and saw him. He wasn't eating. He was very, very thin, and he said, "Oh, any ordinary person would be writhing in agony here. He has hardly any skin on his bones, and all the nerves are exposed and everything." And people would come to visit him, and he would ask him, "Oh, have you had prasadam yet? How was your trip?" And they would start crying. They would say, "But Prabhupada is even there. He's showing a concern rather than just completely." So that kind of ability to transcend the limits of the body and so forth is part of Krishna consciousness. So that's prarabdha and aparabdha karma. So we want to burn up all of them, the seeds laying in wait as well as the ones that are fructifying. All right, let's go on. Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Can't believe it. The verses I was just quoting are right here in the purport. I swear I didn't look ahead. We're on page 230. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Sannyasa karma yogascha. Nikshayasa karabhavo. Tayastu karma sannyasat. Karma yogo vishishyate. Oh, you have the one book. Second verse in the 5th chapter. If you the personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Purport. Fruitive activities seeking sense gratification are a cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:5-4-6 confirms this as follows. These are just the same verses page 230. So I'll chant it myself. Nunam pramattak kurute vikarma yadindriya pritaya apranoti nasadu manne yata atmanoyam asanhapi kleshada asadeha parabhavastava labodha jato yavan jigyasata atma tattvam yavat kriyastavad idam manovai karmatmakangena sharira bandha evam manak karma vashang payungte avidhyatman upadiyamane Priti nayavan mai vasudeve namuchate dehi yogena tavat. People are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from the one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. So, those are the verses I just quoted. By accident, Krishna's arrangement. Therefore, jnana, or knowledge that one is not this material body, but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there is no escape from material bondage. Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. As long as the heart is not purified, one has to work on the fruitive platform. But action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the result of fruitive action, so that one need not descend to the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which always entails a risk of falling. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2-58. So this is the... anyway, well, I'll just chant this one. Prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastu naha mumukshabi padityago vairagyam bhalgukatyate. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. Close quote. Renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything. One should understand that, factually, nothing belongs to anyone. Then where is the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. This perfect form of action in Krishna consciousness is far better than any amount of artificial renunciation by a sannyasi of the Mayavadi school. Now, this is a important verse here. There's a companion verse. You'll find this verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There it is, 1.2-58. And there's a verse. This is describing the real nature of vairagya. Vairagya is a very important concomitant of bhakti yoga. Vairagya means detachment from things. Now we're full of raga. We have so many attachments for things of this world, enjoyable things. And the flip side of it is that we have things that we don't want. That's another kind of attachment, to be free of painful things. So there's two sides to that. So vairagya, or this we call detachment, is different from renunciation. Renunciation is tyaga, is literally giving something up. Giving something up. Now that can be part of it too, just like we have our 4 regs. Everyone knows we're vegetarians, we don't eat meat, we don't gamble, we don't have any intoxication, illicit sex. So that's literally tyaga. We give those things up. But at the beginning stage, there still may be some desire for some of those things. So Krishna consciousness transfers or purifies the desire in your heart. So without extra effort, yes, you have to follow those things, but it becomes feasible, especially when you associate with others who are following and you want serious. It's like any process of advancement. There's something you have to, austerities you have to undergo. You have to sometimes do things you don't really want to do and give up things you want to do. So the definition of real vairagya, which renunciation isn't exactly the term. I don't know. Yeah, you can sit there. Anasakta vishayanyataham apayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandha yuktam vairagyam uchate. Notice the last line, or the last quarter line. Vairagyam pogulkatyate yukta vairagyam uchate. So one is yukta vairagya, is detachment by taking the things in this world that we would normally try to enjoy and linking them up to Krishna. Is that a Gita? That's not a Bhagavad Gita, is it? What is that? No, that's mine. Okay. Example, this temple. This temple wasn't always a temple, as you may know. It was, I think they got it in 78. It had been part of the military thing during World War II. I think it was a warehouse for a while, then it was a movie house, then it was vacant, you know. But then the devotees came here, and for a year they did all of the things you see in here. There was no kitchen. The kitchen was here. There was no bathroom. They had to go next door, and they were taking a shower bath in the filling station. This used to be a filling station. So, but then by hard work, it became what you see now. Everywhere you look, it reminds you of Krishna. You know, the very architecture. You know, this form is uplifting, and what to speak of the deities now, everything. So this is called Yukta Vairagya. The same mortar, the same cement and marble, you know, can be used for anything. But it's being used to glorify Krishna. Therefore, it's helping us you walk into the temple and you think of Krishna. Then you're becoming purified and the Vairagya comes automatically. So this is Yukta Vairagya. It's Vairagya in yoga. And it's an essential part of bhakti. Because we have, the idea is we're spirit souls, and we're part and parcel of Krishna. And so we have Krishna's qualities to a minute degree. Now one of those qualities, if you read about Krishna Lila, he has all kinds of loving exchanges with his devotees. You see? In other words, there's desire there. He wants to be with the gopis, and the gopis want to be with him. You see? Now, he's the Supreme Personality of God. Why does he want to be with the gopis? Because he wants to give them a chance to serve him. But it ends up being an exchange of love. And that's pure pleasure. That's wholesome pleasure that we can also experience ultimately. So, but what happens is when we turn away from Krishna, then that same desire is there, but the Krishna isn't there as the object of it, and so the material world becomes the field of our endeavor to try to enjoy. And we've been stuck here for who knows how long. So what do we need? We need the knowledge. But until we get inquisitive about our real situation here, who am I, what is this world, where did it all come from? These kind of questions have to exercise us. And then, if we're fortunate enough to come in touch with someone who actually has the answers, and this is Prabhupada's whole mission, came to these shores, in 1965, and he had his books. He had his first canto printed, and all that knowledge that he was carrying with him, and he was just looking for some receptive ears, And after about a year, he found them. Now, and he brought with him also the chanting. If someone, even without knowing anything, takes part in the chanting, it'll awaken some interest. The receptivity is there. So these verses that I quoted in the last verse are very pertinent to this. And this idea of activity, karma sannyasa, just giving up activity is not going to help us. We have to give up fruit of activity and engage in meaningful devotional activity, karmic activity, not akarmic activity, excuse me. And this attains, then you say the naish karma. There's a certain state where you're working, you're doing, but you're not engaging in any karma, because all the fruits of those activities, the motive for the activity is in devotional service. You're not doing it on your own behalf. You're doing it on Krishna's behalf. So what is the fruit of that? The ultimate fruit is purification, and you awaken your original inherent but dormant love for Krishna. That's the end of the whole thing. But just loving is not it. Then you express the love, and expressing your love for Krishna, that's spiritual life. That's ultimate spiritual life. That's going on in the spiritual world, and it doesn't end. It's all in the spiritual platform. The only reason why things end, because we're all acting in the realm of matter. This is asat. Asat means that which is not permanent, which is temporary. So we're eternal, Satchidananda, full of knowledge, full of bliss inherently. But we're in a situation which is asat, achit, nirananda. It is not permanent. It is not full of all kinds of ignorance, and it certainly isn't full of unlimited, ever-increasing bliss. Can anyone claim it is? No. But they try to sell you the idea of the false replica of that. Oh, come here, bend this, buy this, read this, do this, take this, drop this. Yeah, I know you're not happy now, but you just take this drug. You see, I have a sale on. No. It's always, you always, stay miserable. Ultimately, a little bit of pleasure, yes, it's there, and a whole lot of suffering.
Now they're selling openly on the boardwalk also.
What is that? Drugs?
The drugs.
That's anything new.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't need that, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I used to smoke marijuana every day when I was living on the Lower East Side, a block from Tompkins Square Park. Yes, sir. And madam. Luckily, Krishna, he saved me from getting into anything heavier. But that was, that was just part of the scene. Everyone was doing it. That's what you do. But we're not going to do that. We're going against the grain. We're following a different, And I'm so happy I did. That was like, what is 68, 56 years ago? And I like to tell the story because I've been around so long. I saw so many phases, of the Western world, the material modern world. In the early 80s, there was the AIDS thing came out, oh my God. And then soon after that, I think it was the crack epidemic, going on. Everyone is, horrible, And then it goes on and on, the opioids, and just going on. And I'm just so thankful Prabhupada saved us from all that. We don't need that, I became addicted to shlokas, I'll be honest with you, And there's every day, they never get old. I chant this one ashtaka every day. I'll give you a little sample. Of course, the Hare Krishna mantra itself is the ultimate mantra, and everything is there. But there's so much wonderful variety. The whole Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita we're reading now, pure nectar. So here's a little sample. Inna nila mani mandalavana pullani pukusamanchitakarna Krishna labhada kishora sihari sundaro jayati kunjabiyari. This is by Rupa Goswami, exquisite Sanskrit. I put it into a little poem. His smooth complexion conquers sapphires stunning to the eye. Kadamba blooms with fragrance full on each ear gently lie. His beauty's greatened by his chest where Gunja necklace stays. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. So there's 8 verses like that. Some of you may have heard it before. I have a poetry file I can send you. So it never gets old, you know. I mean, I was listening to the Beatles back in the 60s before I became a devotee, you know, and I said, oh, wow, you know. But after a while, it became old, you know. I mean, people are listening to golden oldies, you know, but it becomes hackneyed after a while. But this never does. It never does. Hare Krishna, been chanting all these years, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Sweeter and sweeter. So many verses about the sweetness of the holy name. You know, there's, oh yeah, I chant, but it's not. But if you become purified and you get, you know, you go through the different stages, then we go, oh, Maduram Maradebhyo Be Mangalebhyo Be Mangalam. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. So here, you know, Krishna Katha, the service, the deities, it doesn't become hackneyed. Every morning for 33 years I've been coming here and seeing these deities, and it's always enlivening to see Bhagavad. That's because it's spiritual energy. So that's where we want to be, and then you can give up this dead matter. So that's what he's talking about. The sannyasa, you're not going to give up activity, but you're giving up fruit of activity. And these three verses I highly recommend. Prabhupada quotes them here. Any comments, questions? Go ahead, Arjuna.
Krishna Prabhu. So, when we say Om, right? Is
Om?
Or Gayatri Mantra, Om Bhur Bhuvasva, or any other mantras. I'm wondering, are they also a part of Mahamantra, or Mahamantra has its significance being a very, like, super powerful mantra? That's why it's called Mahamantra, and other mantras also have their own significance.
They have their place, just like we say Gayatri, you know, it's all there. And there are also mantras that have nothing to do with Krishna, you know. I mean, there's a whole tantric element that you can find, which you can chant mantras to kill your enemies, you know, develop. I mean, all of these great demons, they're all big yogis, like Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, you know, and they develop demonic powers, you know, these yogic powers. But Krishna is ultimately Yogeshwar. He's you know, whether it's Ram or Krishna, he can. So the other, just like Prabhupada would say, all of these verses are mantras. They can be chanted, just like we chant them repeatedly. And if you, I'll just tell you, you know, if you study the Gita nicely and you understand the meaning of each word and how it fits together, and it's that much more enlivening and meaningful. But just the sound itself is so powerful. But the Maha Mantra is in a class by itself. First of all, it's composed entirely of the names of God, and so it's very powerful. And even the names that are there. Like we heard that, one name of Ram is worth 1,000 names of Vishnu. Did you know that? I mean, they get the same benefit. But one name of Krishna is worth 3 names of Ram. You get the same benefit, 3 names of Ram. So just uttering one time, there's so many statements like that. There's a beautiful verse about the holy name. You know, our literatures are full of it. And in the beginning of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, this is a work by Sanatana Goswami. Brihad Bhagavatamrita means the great book that gives you the essence of the Bhagavatam in you know, 1/10 the size. Sanatana Goswami wrote it. It's the first book written by the Goswamis. So right near the beginning, and is like Mangalacharan, in a major work, you have introductory verses that give you the theme of the book like that. So he has this book about this verse about the holy name, how he's relating to the holy name. Jayati Jayati Namananda Rupam Morare Vidamitinija Dharma Dhyana Pujadi Yatnam Katamapi Sakadatam Muktidam Praninam Yad Padamamamritam Ekam Jivanam Bhushanam Me. So he says, oh glorious to the holy name of Murari, Krishna's name. Nama, which is the very form, rupa, of bliss. Namananda Rupa Murari. This is how he's experiencing it. Just by chanting, he's feeling so much bliss. And by chanting it, it causes you to give up Nija Dharma, any of material activities in your own Swadharma, puja of the demigod, all the great efforts of sacrifice, all that you say you don't need anymore. if some living entity, if some human beings somehow or other chants at one time, Katamapi Sakrit Atam Muktidam, it gives mukti. Praninam, a living entity. Padama Amrita Mekam, it is my supreme and soul Amrita, nectar. My very life and my only ornament that I have for my, So this is one verse about the holy. So Hare Krishna mantra, the Maha Mantra, is extremely powerful. And it's the foundation of our whole sadhana, whole process. Lord Chaitanya was chanting that mantra, so was Haridas Thakur. All right, let's do one more. Text 3, right? Yeah. Geyasa nitya sannyasi yona dveshti nakangshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pamuchyate. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty Arjuna. Purport: one who is fully Krishna conscious, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer because he feels neither hatred nor desire for the results of his actions. Such a renouncer, dedicated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, is fully qualified in knowledge because he knows his constitutional position in relation with Krishna. He knows fully well that Krishna is the whole and that he is the part and parcel of Krishna. Such knowledge is perfect because it is qualitatively and quantitatively correct. The concept of oneness with Krishna is incorrect because the part cannot be equal to the whole. Knowledge that one is one in quality yet different in quantity is correct, transcendental knowledge, leading one to become full in himself, having nothing to aspire to or lament over. There is no duality in his mind, because whatever he does for Krishna. Being thus freed from the platform of dualities, he is liberated even in this material world. So, hates nor desires the fruits of his activities. So one may try to succeed at something, but fails, and is a tremendous letdown. Oh, I put so much money into it, so much time and effort, and now it's a failure. We couldn't start the business or something like that. So material life is full of all kinds of things like that, right? Is the disappointments. But in Krishna consciousness, it's not like that. Like Srila Prabhupada was enlivened to come to America with no money and no contacts, and at age 69, I mean, you know the story. His patron refused. She owned this steamship line, Scindia, Sumati Maraji. And when Prabhupada first approached her, she said, "No, Swamiji, you're just going to die there. I'm not going to," because materially it looked like that. Prabhupada's 69 years old. He's alone. He has no support from India. So she refused. So there's a picture of Prabhupada. I had to sit in, on the steps of her office, and she was sitting there, and her secretary said, "He's still there," So, so finally she agreed. Okay, wonderful. It's essential. Without that, he wouldn't have been able to come. So he gets on the boat, And it happened. He was, and it was very difficult. He'd never been on a boat like that before. The waves. He got seasick. He had heart attacks. But he celebrated Janmashtami. He didn't celebrate his appearance day, but his birth days came. He turned 69 on the boat, actually, and somehow or other, the Atlantic Ocean. You know the story. It's really very stormy. This is September. This is like hurricane season, right? So, but it was like glass. It's just very smooth all the way across. The trouble was getting to the Atlantic. It was going through the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean and everything. So when they got to Boston, they landed in Boston first. The wife of the captain, he had his wife with him. He said, "Can you please come back with us so we can, because we never had a crossing like that before, nice and smooth." So there he is, he's alone. He wrote this wonderful poem called Markandeya Bhagavad Dharma, which means Krishna consciousness in the West, in America, where he's expressing to Krishna his helplessness, and it has this famous line. He said, "You brought me here. You must have brought me here for some reason. So please, my prayer is, please make my power of speaking such that it will enter their hearts, And he's saying, you brought me here to dance, so if you want me to dance, please, my Lord, make me dance as you like, you know. It's a wonderful prayer. And that's what happened, actually. But it didn't happen right away, you know. He went first to Pennsylvania, he had a contact there to get, you know, but he didn't want to stay in some little town in western Pennsylvania. So he makes his way all the way back to New York. He has nowhere, but he has a friend, a contact, a yoga teacher, you know, the story. He was able to stay there and then come downtown. But it was a struggle for whole years. But all the time, Prabhupada is indifferent. He's still blissful. Just the effort. He's feeling Krishna's reciprocation. Oh, you're putting out so much. He's in ecstasy. He's, you know, where someone is who wants to start a business, some crazy guy come to America, you know, and on a boat, he's got $2 in his pocket, and he wants to start a business to make money. Obviously, it's crazy, but not to serve Krishna. You know, that is glorious. Even if he probably had died, you know, that would have been glorious. But Krishna gave him so much, empowered him, you know. So we can also participate in that. We can link up with Prabhupada through reading his books, accepting his instruction, chanting the same mantra. It's still, the power is still there in the whole process. So that we should accept those gifts and as the famous, I forget the Sanskrit, it says, you have attained this human form of life after many, many births. And the human form of life is meaningful because only in this form can you actually achieve the final goal of life and escape from the bonds of birth and death and go back to Godhead. So don't waste any time. Strive as hard as you can, as soon as you can. For what? Nikshayasa, the ultimate good. Not these temporary goods of money and fame and pleasure, you know, that's just a fool's gold. Strive for the ultimate nikshayasa, which is getting free of these attachments, developing one's relationship with God, and going back to Godhead. Because after all, in all these other forms we've been through, we've had all varieties of sense gratification. You know that old phrase, I don't know if it's still current, been there, done that? We've been there, we've been everywhere and done it all. And here we are still bound up in birth and death. So let's make this human form of life successful and go back to God at chant Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Now we'll have a little kirtan and proceed. And thank you to our YouTube audience, Zoom audience. Thank you.